Hey guys, what's up? It is mid-August already, and if you haven't started thinking about your fall garden yet, now is the time to do it. Today, as we're going through the garden, we are going to not only harvest some of the summer stuff, but I'm also going to be taking you through planting a couple of the new fall varieties. I've got my seeds in my basket with me. I have some Aqua Dolce fava beans. I have these fava beans, which I found in my container, which were not labeled, but we're going to plant them anyway. I have tall telephone peas, sugar magnolia tendril peas. Both of these are really tall, so they're going to go on the trellis. I've got sugar daddy and also dwarf sugar Ann, and both of these are just going to kind of get planted everywhere, and they're going to grow along the ground. And I tried to do this last year, but I was too late with it, so I'm starting earlier this year. I want to have these coming up by the time that all the summer stuff is starting to die back. Also, on the porch here with me, I have started hardening off my bigger brassicas. This is mostly stuff like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. I also have rutabaga. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I've got here. The rutabagas are looking kind of leggy to me. So I'm also going to try planting some in the ground. Maybe I will also do that today, but I probably won't do that on camera. And I think in just a week or two, I'm going to start plugging these into the garden. If you're not sure where to start as far as planting a fall garden, the first thing you need to do is look up your first frost date, and then from there you just kind of count backwards based on what you are trying to grow. A lot of these fall crops are going to do better if they come into maturity just as the weather is starting to freeze for the first time. The plants that can grow in the cold protect themselves from cold because what they do is concentrate sugars in their leaves, and that decreases the freezing point of the water in their leaves, so they don't die in a frost the same way plants who can't do that would die. So if you're looking for the sweetest vegetables, you want to wait until they've had to pull sugars up from the roots into their leaves in order to survive a frost. Kata looks so done with the day already. She's been napping on the porch. August is really, I think, peak for the garden. August and September. That's when everything's been growing for a while. It's starting to reach peak maturity. I'm reaching peak harvests about this time as well. Right now, looking at the garden, it is kind of hard to imagine planting something in here. And it'll take, you gotta remember, it'll take a few days to germinate, and then it'll take, something on the order of a few weeks to actually, get to be decently sized. And in a few weeks, it'll be September, the weather's going to be cooling off, and I think tomatoes especially, I'll be starting to actually cut out and pull out of the garden. I don't know about all of this yet. I think probably peppers will stay. Zinnias might start coming out. We'll just have to see. In the past, I've waited all the way until frost kills stuff to pull it out, and I think that that's a mistake because, especially with tomatoes, they are slowing down production, the plants are getting sick, and leaving them in place isn't necessarily worth it. Alright, so let's take a look at this first trellis. This is my scarlet runner beans, and I haven't noticed any new actual beans on here in a while. I think I saw some little babies over here, but they have fallen off. Something just isn't right with this plant this year. Haven't barely gotten any beans on it, but it's busy making tubers for next year, so hopefully the weather conditions next year will just be more favorable for it. And then right here on the corner, this is one of my turmerics. It is actually starting to look big. This I will leave right up until it's almost about to frost to go ahead and dig up. Same with the ginger. Down here I have another turmeric, but this one is a black turmeric, and I'm super excited to try that out and see what it looks like. If we take a look down the tomato row, you can see I've still got plenty of these purple beans. I've been pulling some of them, and those of you on my Patreon who saw the video of my stir fry go up, I am working on a new way of preserving these, which involves essentially packing them in salt from fresh into jars, and then when you need to eat them, you kind of blanch them and then cook them from there. I did a small batch of that, and I'm going to wait a couple of weeks and then try them out and see. It's going to be maybe a little late. Sorry, we're getting a few gusts of wind, which is like the sign that the seasons are starting to change. The air is moving around because temperatures are changing. But yeah, I think I'll wait a little bit and try them out. I think that I started trying this process a little too late to do it like in a massive quantity if it does work this year, but at least I will know for next year. Basils are something that I can leave up until the frost. They don't take up a lot of room, and they generally stay pretty good all the way up until the frost. I've noticed this year that they've been less aggressive about trying to flower, and I bet that's probably a little bit of the drought. But I don't mind it because it is definitely going to keep the flavor of this looking a little better. Purple basils as well, just doing really, really well. Let's see what else we got going on further down the line. You can see some of these plants are just absolutely giving up right now, but if you look, you can find there's still like fresh fruits getting put on, stuff that needs to be harvested, and it's a mess, but there's food in here for sure. These bean vines keep coming out, and down here we have even more of the bigger tomatoes. I think I'll have enough for maybe one more batch of sauce this year at least. My marshmallow plant is looking so good. I'm very excited for it next year when I can start harvesting roots from it. The leaves are unbelievably soft, kind of like lamb's ear. And I'm just kind of hoping that it will be an aggressive grower now that it's got a tuber in the ground. I need something to help start competing out all this grass. So right here in the second row, this is where my eggplant and my peppers are going to be. I still haven't had a very good eggplant harvest. I pulled a couple of small ones a couple of weeks ago, and I've seen a lot of flowers on my plants, but not just a whole lot of fruit yet. My sweet peppers are starting to come in. These ones are starting to ripen up. Look at that red one down there. And I've got plenty more little green ones coming on. These are the plants that have struggled all year, and I'm actually finally getting stuff from them. So very, very happy that this continues to not be a total loss the way I thought that it would be when I saw these plants at the beginning of the year. And I think in here is going to be one of the spots where I plant a lot of the dwarf peas. You can see there's definitely some space for them to get a little bit of sun. Further down this way, I think it'll be a little bit more of a struggle to get some peas growing up in here, just because I've done such a good job of planting these things close enough together that they are actually shading the soil beneath them fully. I've got so many hot peppers in here that will need to be harvested very soon. My Buena Mulatas, I think, are the most striking with their really bright purple fruits, and a couple of them down here are ripening. They go from orange to like this deeper orange that you see right here. If you look further back here, you can see that's a Sugar Rush peach that is ripe. They get to be that peachy color. Right here on this plant, all the way down here, I've got my first Trepidera, and if you look through the branches here, you can see some of the first Tabasco peppers starting to ripen. And if I come up here, you can kind of take a look at how this disease on the peppers has been going. This plant here doesn't look so good, but I haven't seen it spreading as fast to the other plants. Like this one's got a little bit, this one's got a little bit, but I think that the organic rev that I've been using is really keeping it in check. I haven't seen any plants dropping large amounts of leaves. Even this sickest one over here, usually I would see it losing about half its leaves at this point, and I think there's only a couple on the ground down here. So definitely we have prevented disaster. We haven't like fully destroyed the disease, but it is an improvement from what I've seen in the past. As we look down at the end here, this is still very empty. I am kind of keeping it clear for some of the bigger brassicas to go in very soon. And if we look at the edge here, my lemongrass doing okay, not as good as it did last year, and my feverfew also doing pretty well. This should be a perennial and I should see it come back next year. I'm hoping it reseeds itself and we start getting something of a physical barrier on this side of the garden. If I turn around, the corn is getting to be pretty much done. If this was sweet corn, I would be pulling it right now, but since it's popcorn, I am going to leave it to continue drying on the stalks. I think the corn didn't turn out as good as it could have this year. Like everything else, the drought definitely affected its growing potential. I did order some more types of popcorn seeds for next year, and I'm very excited for it. Last year I was able to grow enough popcorn to last me until this month actually, and I think this year I will not have nearly as much as I did before, but that's okay, we're learning. Right past the corn I have some more empty space here that I can fill in with peas and fava beans, probably fava beans over here, and then some sweet peppers. These are all the store-bought ones. They are also putting on some peppers, but I had hoped that they would be doing much better than the ones that I have, and they are only doing about the same, to be honest. And they are also starting to get some of that disease, so I need to come in and spray these guys. I will get a few peppers from these, but I bought these as a backup and I thought they would do really well, and I am kind of disappointed in their overall performance. This trellis has my cucumbers and my blue butterfly peas on it. They make these gorgeous blue flowers, and I've been pulling these for tea, but also trying to do a better job this year of leaving a lot on the vine to make seeds for myself, because last year I didn't get any seeds. And I am actually harvesting cucumbers now. I've harvested 2 this past week, and I've got another one right here. There's a couple of little babies waiting to be pollinated, and on the other side we've got these ones. This is a longer variety right here. And also I've recently noticed that the white butterfly peas that were given to me by a viewer are actually starting to bloom for the first time. They are very pretty. The flowers aren't as many layers as the blue one, which I find very interesting. This looks much more like a pea flower, so that starts making a little bit more sense. I am definitely at that point in the season where noodle beans are getting left to start getting big and actually making beans. This one, you can see how wrinkly it is and how like kind of floppy. It's not very firm anymore because it's putting all its energy into its beans instead of the flesh. These are pretty much ready to pull off, but I can get away with leaving them on there to dry out outside just because it's been so dry. And that's actually one of the benefits of the drought, is it's so humid and rainy here that usually stuff like this, if I leave it too long, it'll just mold outside instead of drying. And this year I think I will see a lot of natural drying of beans, which, you know, that takes a little bit of extra work off my plate for sure. This trellis and that trellis will both get seeds of my really tall peas planted in here. And I think that they will start out by competing with everything that's here, but you know, eventually when they're like actually big, they will be the only thing left. All right, this last row right here, it's getting to be pretty jungly. As I've been saying all season, most of it is weeds. I'm finding some of them are edible weeds, like this one. This is American burnweed. That one's pokeweed. And I mean, some of the stuff down here might eventually produce. Like, I've got a pepper. It's making flowers. It's trying. It's going real slow because it is in the shade of this giant tree. And all the way down here, I've been keeping track of my blueberry, which it's okay. It's doing okay. It's not doing as good as it could. Maybe next year, if it's not so much of a drought, I'll see it do a little bit better. Down here next to the blueberry, I've also got this. This is pretty sure an Egyptian walking onion, also from the same viewer who gave me the white butterfly peas. I thought it had died, but I didn't move it, and look, it's growing a new little green leaf. So it is still alive, and I may yet actually establish a patch of Egyptian walking onions in this back corner. This one Cosmo that has been really tall all season, it is finally taller than me. So I'm seeing a few flowers on it. Nothing too showy really, but I bet this will reseed itself, and because of the direction that the plants lean, I bet that they're going to keep moving that direction across the garden. Okay, so now we're moving on to this other section of the garden over here. A quick check-in on my grapes. They are doing pretty good. This one I actually thought was dead for a while, and it did finally start growing much later in the season. I've got this one right here, which has got multiple branches going now. I think it'll still be like a couple of years before I can expect to see any fruit from this, but you know, the sooner you start it, the better. And I had tried to plant hardy kiwi berries on this trellis as well, but those did not come up. Those were just like from the big box store. And so because I do want them so badly now, I went ahead and ordered some from Stark Rose, and they should be here like this week. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get some of those in the ground and get them established before the frost comes. I've got all the way until like the 1st of November-ish before my frost comes, and I don't think Stark would be shipping to me right now if they weren't going to survive. So I'm going to try and get them started this year, and hopefully I haven't wasted too much time. I'm going to try and hit some of the highlights here, since things over in this section don't change very fast. I think one of the more interesting things is the yarrow has started flowering. It looks honestly amazing, considering that everything else in this bed is only just like barely hanging on. You can see how much the level has dropped. You can see some spots where the like wood underneath has like completely collapsed. You can see the wood poking through up here. This raised bed in general has not done very well. I need to add quite a bit of soil to it this coming year, not just because it is collapsing, but also because the soil that did get added to it was that stuff that was contaminated. So the fact that the yarrow is doing so good is very cool. And also I'm surprised that the marshmallow is doing as well as it is. It almost looks like it's trying to form little berries, and I hadn't ever heard of like fruits from a marshmallow plant, but I assume if it's flowering, it's trying to make some kind of fruit with a seed in it, right? So I'm gonna have to do some research on that and figure out if that's usable or edible in any way. I haven't yet dug for sweet potatoes to see if they are actually here. The deer still come by and get a few leaves every now and then, but by and large, the sweet potatoes seem to be doing fine. But I guess the real test will be, do I actually have any decently sized sweet potatoes in this bed? Over here in the berry patch, I think it's really nice to see that even though the blueberries aren't very happy, my St. John's wort is very happy, and it is spreading out along the ground the way that I hoped. This should also be perennial, and I'm hoping to see it spread and cover more of this area next year, and hopefully keep competing back all this grass. As predicted, we actually did not get any rain at all from Tropical Storm Debbie. We got just a tiny bit of rain this morning, 0.2 of an inch, but I think I'm gonna actually still need to water all of this perennial stuff, and I think specifically the little babies out here are what need the water the most. My little kumquats and figs. I have actually already lost a fig this year. Here's this one right here. This is my original one that was in the pot last year. And this poor little guy just did not get enough water, too much sun. Very unfortunate, but I do have a second one that is over in the shade that is doing a little bit better. So at least we had two to start. I really thought that this one was going to be the one that did better. But my neglect killed it. Alright guys, well, it is South Carolina and it is still insanely hot out here. So I am going to wrap this up and set you guys up on a tripod as I go and plant some things and also try and harvest some stuff from the garden before I absolutely cannot be outside any longer. I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next week. But until then, happy gardening.